and welcome along to Off the Court, your weekly YouTube guide to all things Vitality Netball Superleague. With me, along for the ride as always, is Scotland coach and so highly Superleague decorated she could have her own room on Interior Design Masters. Tamsin Greenway's here. Coming up, we've got Performance of the Week. Will it be Thunder or Lightning this time round? We're sweating it up for the new season in Australia with one of the Fire Bud mothers, as they're known, Eboni Usoro-Brown, and we've a coaching masterclass with her old coach, Team Bath's Anna Stembridge. 3 mums on the show this week, the perfect week to celebrate them. Tamsin, how was round 9 for you?
Round 9 was probably one of the most interesting rounds I've seen so far, purely because of how depleted some of the sides were. I think I counted by the end of it 9 starting players across all of the fixtures that missed out for various different reasons. A lot of it still to do with the pandemic. Really, really interesting. Had huge implications on results, which will have huge implications on what happens at the end of the season.
Huge implications. Here's what you may have missed. It saw the 100% club of Thunder and Loughborough at it again. The wins 2 for Sirens, their 3rd of the season, and Rhinos. And it's 1-1, lost 1 for Wasps over the weekend. Thunder then top of the table, but they've played a game more than Lightning. Pulse sit 3rd. Mavericks defeat to Rhinos. That means it's all a little too close for comfort in that race for 4th. And everyone feeling that position in particular is up for grabs this season. Straight into it then. What about game of the weekend? On paper, if you look at it, Wasps win over Bath looks like the result of the weekend. But you mentioned that COVID hitting this weekend hit Bath hard. Rhinos with a couple of goals win over Mavericks. Rhinos getting it done. Mavericks missing some key players too. Venter, we hear out for a few weeks with her calf. Lee's a Curedale as well due to the pandemic. I'm not trying to sway you, Tamsin Greenway, but that Thunder win over Pulse, did that make your game of the weekend?
Well, I'm going to pretend I know what I'm talking about because I did say it was the one to look out for this weekend and it didn't disappoint. So I do know what I'm talking about. 3 goals in it, 51-48. It was tight, it was close, it went goal for goal in that second half. And what I think is quite intriguing is we've talked so much about the Thunder attack end. They sit at goals for 603, more than anybody else in the league. We know they were averaging around 70 each game. But we said the problem was going to come when someone could stop them scoring. And Pulse gave it a very good go. They got them down to 51, the lowest score they had so far this season. Interestingly, didn't have Ellie Cardwell, so Nat Metcalf was playing in at goal attack. And Vula, 45 goals in at goal shooter, was impressive. But it's why I wanted to focus on the Thunder defensive end because we haven't talked lots about them. Kerry Armand's 200th game. She's been waiting for this partnership with Shadeen van der Merwe. It's been building over the last few weeks and it's finally come into fruition. And I'm going to pick up the games here from round 6 when they played Team Bath. This was early on with Shadeen coming in. It's really interesting as we take a look at this, just the way that they're working together. So you're going to watch Kerry Armand here with this backing up. One of her strengths of the game, putting Betsy Creek under all kinds of pressure. Really interesting. Van der Merwe is constantly out hunting. Just that experience. She doesn't panic here. They get called for the obstruction. But this is what 200 caps and an international partner does for you. Watch this penalty as Sophie Drake goes to set it up here. Just keep your hands on Van der Merwe, who comes through with that tip and the intercept. They never, ever stop working. Trademark from Kerry Armand. She comes around the front, slides in behind. Van der Merwe backs her up. Ball goes flying off the back line. And this is one of my favourites, just watching how they work together. You can see Van der Merwe coming into that unit. She's slotted in really, really well with O'Hanlon and Malcolm out the front. It's their constant footwork to come around these players, the constant hunting. Just look at Armand stepping across, coming back in, and there's the turnover. Between them, 8 turnovers, 13 deflections in this game against London Pulse, and it was needed. Goal for goal in that second half, as I talked about, and they got themselves over the line because of that full court defensive pressure.
Brilliant to see Kerry Armand tearing it up again. Love the guard of honour that she got off the court too. She should have one onto court every weekend. We talk a lot about Thunder, and no doubt they're going to turn up in performances of the week after week after week. But for Pulse, every time that I chat to coaches, they're saying, oh, but what about Pulse? No, Pulse are the tricky team. They're the ones that are going to be the stayers. They're the ones to watch out for. For you, when you look at Pulse, do you see them as dead certs for top 4?
They're the real deal. I mean, they were a young, exciting side coming into this season. At some point, they were going to pull it together. Well, they certainly have. I think they've got the star quality in someone like Fumi Fidoju. We talked about the Thunder defence end, but honestly, watching on Twitter during that game, if you weren't lucky enough to be at the sellout crowd at Bellevue, it was like Fumi intercept, Kerry intercept, Fumi intercept, Kerry. She's keeping her team in games. She's doing magical things and changing momentums. But it's also their attack end. You know, I was probably a bit critical of Sashi McDonald at the start of the season. I didn't know she was going to add that spark to the Pulse lineup, but she certainly has. She's settled into that lineup. She's opening up Sheen. I think partnership with Ellie Ratu as well, with feeding in Sheen, that's developing. I'm just really intrigued by how they're sort of performing and stepping up each week. They're challenging every team above them, which is what you need to do. They're beating all the teams below them. I tell you what, I think they're dead cert for top 4, and I wouldn't want to face them in a semi-final. They're a scary prospect.
Oh, hear her laying that down. Thud. There it is. Right, that's Pulse and Thunder. On to your coaching move of the week then. And you're going to take this from the Mavericks Rhinos game. This was a Rhinos win over Mavs 53-51, so tight as you like. It was a 5th win of the season for Rhinos. They're now 5th in the table. And player of the match went to Bree Grierson. What is it about Bree Grierson, and what is it about the way that Tracy Robinson is using her?
Well, it was a really smart move. Earlier on in the season, we'd seen Bree Grierson start at goal attack in round 3 against Team Bath, and I was not convinced. They lost that quarter 19-10, Rhea Dixon sitting on the bench. Well, fast forward a few weeks, Rhea Dixon is out with an injury at the moment. She'll be returning, but they needed to mix things up. So Bree started at wing attack, Sienna Rushton at goal attack. But they were playing against Raz Quashie and Jodie Gibson, and sort of those target shooters in there, your Bergers, your Rushtons, they're easier for a Quashie and a Gibson to pick off. So half-time, she changes it up. She brings Bree into that goal attack position, who went on to get player of the match. I was so impressed with what she brought to that game, how she carved up the circle. I've got a couple of clips to show you, and you're going to watch this here on a through court. It's the speed for me. She comes and gets this ball off Amelia Hall, a quick ball back, that's her playmaking, gets it, doesn't back out, takes on that baseline drive. Rasquashi has nothing to do other than hit her, but this is more impressive. She goes for the shot. She doesn't put it down for Rushton. She takes it on. Watch again through this through court. You're not going to see her in this passage of play. Why? Because she's on the baseline. She already wants to open up the circle. Look at that. Blink and you miss it. Pass over. That's the flair, the hands, the playmaking we're seeing from Bree Grierson. And this for me is the composure. She's on the ball here, passes it back, comes and gets it. Watch the way she sprays this ball over to Jay Clark in the pocket, goes back to go and get it. Again, is not put off by Quashie's jump and is trying to open up this circle. She is not backing out, and that's what's so impressive. You're going to watch this throw in here. She ended up with 8 shots on the board in a goal-for-goal game in a second half. That's a goal attack that wants to shoot, not a wing attack hiding. And you can see that from here. She gets the penalty off Sienna Rushton. She doesn't even look to pass it. She comes in, she sets the shot, she puts it up. You know, so many goal attacks that swing, wing attacks that swing into that goal attack position don't want to put the shot up. They're just trying to open up the circle. Not Bree Grierson. She's got everything at the moment in terms of what she's delivering on the ball and what she's prepared to do in the circle. And that was a big reason they got over the line against Maverick.
From a coaching masterstroke to a coaching masterclass. Before we get our first guest in to talk about her side, let's talk about her team. Team Bath this season. They went into this season, your old side, Tamsin, with a mix of returning stars, new talent. They had 11 of the squad that made the grand final returning. We've covered Serena Guthrie's brilliant pregnancy, but they've still got Allison, Borger Creek, Gusguth, Drakeford Lewis. They've got the Shaws, etc. But it was a difficult weekend. Defeat to Wasps leaves their top 4 all up in the air. Talk to me about this Bath team, where you see them, and your thoughts on them now going into the rest of the season.
I'm not sure anything else can be thrown at this Bath team, if I'm being brutally honest. Look, this weekend, I don't think any other top 4 team would have survived, would have got a win missing this amount of players. You know, they lost Layla Gusgoth, Tash Pavlin, Imogen Allison, Kirsty Harris. That's your starting goal defence, wing defence, centre, or wing attack. And this is a team that have had to settle with this lineup. Mawene, a goalkeeper, not coming back in, not starting at the start of the season, coming back in a little bit later. So, yeah, they've had everything to deal with, contend with, and not surprised when I saw that lineup that they didn't get the victory over Wasps. However, when you're looking at a group like this, you have to look at some of the positives. And one of the big parts of that is players like Sophie Drake Lewis are now having to step up into leadership roles. And this is a massive sort of journey, part of her game that's going to help her develop not only in the Super League, but on the international stage as well. So although the results aren't always going the right way, there are other positives to look at. I want to pick up Sophie Drake Lewis here, the work rate that she's doing and how much more composed she is on the ball. So you're going to see her offload that centre pass here. You usually have a head sort of down drive in Sophie Drake Lewis. She's chilling out a little bit. She's picking off the screen. She's coming out when she's needed. And then she's thinking about where she's offloading and picking off. This is a different player to a player we saw last year who would literally just charge into that circle. You're going to see her again on the through court. Look at her offer. Doesn't get the ball, but doesn't go running out of it. Comes back to get herself on it, to get her play going. She comes and takes a couple of 1-2s here. Takes a big hit. Hits the floor. There's the sort of rebound from Kerry Armand. But look, she's straight back up. You're going to watch her again. She's screening off in the circle. She's not doing anything crazy. She offers out, re-offers. This is so important. And look at that timing to come onto the ball and get herself in a shooting position. This is a player that's constantly seeing her centre court change out in front of her. This is a player that's constantly having Borgia and Creek change behind her. And yet she is still playing through and playing her game and getting Bath into positions where they can punish teams. And that's going to be crucial because this second half of the season now for them is going to be difficult. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, but they've got to get some wins under the belt, and Sophie Drake Lewis will have a big part to play in that.
Anna Stembridge, welcome along to Off the Court. Thank you actually for squeezing us in, because it must be madness at the moment. Tamsin just talking about Sophie Drake Lewis and things changing up. Let's start with her in particular then. What have you seen change from Sophie this season?
I think from what we've seen with Sophie is a more considered approach. Like, we know Sophie's got an engine on her, that she's a hard worker, but we've definitely seen a more considered, actually. Running's not always effective, so how can we hold up play into space? How can she work with, again, different shooters in terms of playing with Kimmy in terms of more rotation circle versus, playing with people like Betsy in terms of tall timber. So yeah, for me, we're really working on that, being more considered, but then also just being a fearless shooter and going to goal.
I think you've highlighted some of the real key things we were talking about Sophie Drake Lewis there. And I know this weekend, I mean, it was craziness how many players you were missing. But we've also seen players when they are around, like Imogen Allison, having to be moved into centre. How are you finding that, exploring with these younger players, learning new positions, doing new things and having to carry the team? How are you experiencing that at the moment?
Yeah, to be fair, credit to the girls. Like, everything that's been thrown at them, they're just embracing it and having a crack. So I think in terms of Imo, she actually wanted to have more exposure at centre going into this season. And when we were kind of looking at pre-season, like flipping her and Serena around. So, in terms of the wonderful news that we had around Serena, it's kind of forced our hand a little bit more with respect to Imo. But I think what you see from Imo is that she goes into attack and really knows how to play the space and open up the width, and also just some of her touches. Like, I think she's got a real natural attacking ability in terms of feeding the circle. So yeah, I feel like they're just embracing everything that is getting thrown at them, really.
And what does this mean for you this year, coaching wise? Because like I keep saying, there is literally no more that can be thrown at this team.
Don't say that.
But in terms of when we saw the squad you'd re-signed for this year, it was majority of the players that made the grand final last year, and everyone went, there you go, Bath are going to be there. Things haven't quite panned out the way you probably wanted when you looked at that squad sheet. So I know there's still a long time to go in this season. There's still so much to be done. But have you got one eye on the future as well? Is this kind of rebuild year? Is this like, right, well, let's give Betsy Creek opportunity. Let's see what Kirsty Harris can do. Like, is this kind of one eye ahead to the future as well?
Yeah, it's a real hard one, isn't it, as a coach? Because ultimately you want to win every game, every quarter, and win championships. But I think the biggest thing for me is we're seeing people step up. So you've mentioned Kirsty Harris. I think she's been exceptional at times, and actually she's just growing with the more court time she gets, the more opportunity. But we're also seeing, she's learning quickly. I think in terms of round one, round two, there was some naivety in terms of some of the things that she was doing, but she's just embraced it and learned quickly from that. So we're still, the goal is still top four. And I think, we've shown that when we have minimal restrictions and nearly everyone available, we can compete with Thunder, Loughborough, etc. So we're definitely thereabouts. But unfortunately, we've had some narrow losses. Even with the challenges, the girls have just, had a crack and embraced it. But, people like Betsy, Kirsty are really relishing in the opportunity. And you've got to, I suppose, give them that, but when performance warrants it. So we've been seeing it in training. And I think it's not going to be about just giving people court time for the sake of giving court time. We're still out there to win it, and we're still out there to compete. And talking about Betsy, she did really well against Wasps. I think that's the best I've seen her since the Pulse game, where unfortunately she got injured in. She came on, had a really good impact in that Pulse game, and unfortunately had to leave the court because of an injury. So really proud of some of the girls and the way in which they're just building and just relishing the opportunity, really. But we're definitely still going in for top four. Like, let's make no feet around that. We're wanting to go top four still.
That's one of my questions ticked off your minimum this season. How have you found it, though, Anna, as a coach in this kind of puzzle-making world of being a coach? How difficult has it been for you these last couple of weeks, let alone months?
Yeah, it's been challenging. I think, we all talked about last year being really challenging because of the restrictions with COVID and obviously the sheer volume of travel that we have faced. But in one way, it kind of felt like you're in your own little bubble, and it felt a little bit safer. You felt like if you could really mitigate and adhere to those guidelines, ultimately you're going to hopefully have those players available to you. So I think I'd be wrong and it'd be remiss of me to say it's been easy. It's definitely been challenging. Week on week, we're like, okay, who have we got to train in today? What restrictions do we have? Day on day, like there's things that are coming through that you're just like, oh my goodness, what else is going to be thrown at us? So hence when I said to T, fingers crossed when you make that statement. So yeah, like you just got to embrace it. And I think sometimes you can only control what you control. So we are just taking it game by game and round by round, and that's all you can do. I just don't think you can get too ahead of yourself. And yet at the minute we're sitting kind of in that mid-range in terms of the table, but a lot of minutes and a lot of games to play, and that's all we can do is focus on each game, throw everything we can at each game and see where we're at.
Oh yeah, it's hugely competitive, the league this season, which probably doesn't help, does it, having that in there too? Tamsin, on that point, I know you've built and rebuilt teams too in that. When you go from being in a grand final or winning a title, not saying there is a hangover with Team Bath, I'm not saying that, Anna, but how do you reset that to go again, knowing you might be thrown these challenges?
Well, it's a real difficult one. I mean, I don't think there is ever a hangover from the season before, but there is kind of a point when you don't get there, or you have just got there. Is what do you look at next? I think the big thing for me is the injection of players, and I think what probably Anna, and I'm going to ask this to you now, is kind of you have a core group and you have experience, and you like to bring in the youngsters as and when. I think at times this season you've had to throw almost lots of them out there to sort of fend for themselves, and I think that comes back to how impressed I've been with Sophie Drake Lewis. I think I think one of the big things for me is managing it then behind the scenes, because all we see is the outcome and everyone's going Team Bath should be winning. So I'm just intrigued to see sort of like culturally how that group's going, who have the leaders become in that group, and sort of who have been you sort of most impressed with in taking on sort of those leadership roles.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think we always pride ourselves on the culture and the environment that we create. And actually in pre-season, we still addressed that and really unpicked it in terms of at the end of the season, if we look back on the season, what do we want to be proud of in terms of the way we've conducted ourselves, the behaviours we displayed? And that has to be a thread throughout. So to answer your question, for me, Imogen Allison has been exceptional in terms of the way she's led, the behaviours that she's demonstrated, the way in which she's demanding from the team that, you know, we uphold to those standards, that we're living and breathing those behaviours that we said we were going to do, whether it's win or lose or draw. And I think, you know, the leadership group as a whole, that four, while it's new, you've got some exceptional leaders in Layla and Kimmy, and Soph's really growing in terms of that that role this year. But for me, it definitely has been Imo. Bearing in mind she's had, you know, been thrown the centre bib at, and she's embraced it. She's been managing injury as well. So again, like that's challenging when you're trying to lead. It's easy to lead when you're either performing or you're winning, but actually to lead when you're having individual challenges yourself and a team that isn't quite getting over the line, you have a choice. Like, you either step up and demonstrate to the rest of the group that this is what I'm going to do, so come with me shoulder to shoulder. And I genuinely believe that's what you're seeing from Imo on the court and behind the scenes.
Well, in our now regular feature on Who Makes England Centre, there's been lots of talk about Imogen Allison and wearing that centre bib. Do you think she's ready for it for England?
I think it's going to be an interesting decision for Jess and the coaching team around that centre bib. And I think you've got a number of athletes that are putting their hand up, as well as, you know, Imo. I think you've got people like Laura Malcolm that can play across all three positions. I believe with Imogen, like, she definitely can offer you something different. And I go back to what her natural ability on attack, that's what I've been most impressed with. I think where we need to make the biggest gains with her at centre is what she does at wing defence defensively, that she brings it across the 15 minutes at centre. And it's different because where you're playing into position, how you're getting back in position, what you're kind of playing from, the load that you've just done on attack. So, yeah, that's for me the biggest work on. If we can accelerate that learning in this season, I think she'll be in a really strong position. But, you know, you've got a number of players. I think the wing defence bib was competitive enough. Now that you've got that opportunity for people to say, hang on a minute, Jess, I'm your go-to. And you've got people like Jade that have been in there with over 100 and something caps that have got the experience. So I think it's around, what does Jess feel? What points of difference are you going to get? Because it's not just around people performing, but it's also a point of difference. If she needs to mix it up in that championship, she needs that. So yeah, I think Imogen's got a really good chance. And I think from my perspective, we've still got work to be done of bringing that defensive game from wing defence to centre for me.
Which can only be good things for England going forward. Anna, we've taken up far too much of your time.
Exactly.
Thank you for coming on.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Coming up in the next half of the show, we've a special delivery via Australia as we continue to talk all things off the court. You're watching Off the Court with me, Caroline Barker, and her Tamsin Greenway. A reminder to check out our previous shows via the Vitality Netball Superleague YouTube channel, where you're watching this. Give us a watch and a like, and in return you'll get coaching analysis, insight from the likes of Karen Gregg, Victoria Burgess, the two coaches currently top of the Super League pile. No real surprises there. But who has been a pleasant surprise for you this week, Tamsin? I mean, just you personally.
Well,
could be someone knocking on the door.
You know what? It was really nice to head up and watch some live netball. I watched a lot through screens. So I went up to Scotland this weekend just to catch up with some of the players that aren't getting a lot of court time, but also to watch them play Celtic Dragons. And they got over the line. They got a 10-goal victory there. Again, we talk about depleted sides. Dragons without Georgia Rowe, she would be their starting shooter. So Sirens were able to do some stuff defensively. But it was really great to see the likes of Emily Nicol, her performance against Radaman, who she will face come the Commonwealth Games. And then just to watch how our players handled some of the physicality in the circle and how they played out things. So yeah, good win for Sirens. Probably an expected win, but it was personally a nice surprise for me to see them live and in the flesh and doing what they do.
Can I drop a huge caveat into this, which is clearly no one wants to see anyone injured. Clearly no one wants to see anyone suffering with the pandemic. But I am actually pleased that we're seeing a lot more transparency from the clubs in posting up their game day squads early, letting us know who's in, who's out, the reasons behind it too. And I think that clarity going forward, all the more stats we're seeing as well, the brilliant use of social media we're seeing from clubs this season. A lot of these clubs based on volunteers, tireless work that they're all doing. But I'm enjoying hearing a lot more, seeing a lot more in that engagement between the fans and the clubs this season. Who perhaps needs to do better? And I don't mean social media. I don't mean what they're doing off the court, but on it. Where could you see maybe a few tweaks that would benefit some sides this week?
Yeah, well, I think it's not necessarily do better, but look, I'm at the start of the season. 7 Stars were a side that told us again they were going to push top 4, that they were going to change things up, that they were going to frighten some teams, and clearly the big part of that was Kat Tuiviti was going to be on the court, and we saw her back. We saw her back in round 9. We saw her up against Loughborough Lightning. We saw her on for the first quarter and win that first quarter 18-17. So, you know, big things are happening with Kat back in there. It will be important. However, for me, I just look at the last few weeks and go, could you have cemented some other combinations? This is a team that up till round 7 had started a different lineup in every game. Now that is huge. And I think now you've got Kat back, now you've got your focal point back. What have you learned about the other players, and have you given them enough time on that court to make sure that they cement that combination? They've been forced into certain things, I know, injuries and bits and bobs like that, but I do think there is benefit on keeping players out there, letting them play through some stuff. And one of the big things is going to be now moving forward for them is who takes that goal attack position. We've seen Paige Reed and Katie Harris changing it up through quarters, during quarters, half times, you know, all the time. And I just wanted to pick up a couple of clips to show the differences here. So this is Katie Harris here against Runners. You're just going to see her come up against Vicky. She is happy to feed from long. So that'll be interesting to see if she can nail that feed into Tuiviti. That, of course, is young Izzy Eaton, who's done a fab job under the post for them. But Katie Harris isn't your cut and drive goal attack. She'll be more looking sort of coming in slowly. This is Paige Reed, however. She'll come and get on this ball in a minute. You're going to come and see her into shot. She is a bit more of the playmaker. She'll pass the ball back. She'll come and re-offer. She's looking for her opportunity to cut and drive in. And you see this ball over the top to Leota, and then she'll take the drive in, try and open up the space for Izzy Eaton. So 2 very different styles of goal attack. For me, it's going to be who feeds Tuiviti the best. It's how long they can keep her out on court, but also starting to cement this sort of attacking lineup. You know, if you're happier with Leota in centre, leave her there. Let Beth and Dyke play at wing attack, and let's really look at who's going to mould that goal attack position.
Stars at Sirens this weekend then. We'll talk round 10 shortly, but you may have noticed we've got a guest, because coming up this weekend, the start of Super Netball. We swing cross court to Australia. It gets off and underway. She's one of our own. Eboni Usoro-Brown. Well, she's one of Queensland Firebirds, but she'll always be our own. Eboni joins us. Eboni, thank you for coming on Off the Court. How you feeling? How you loving it? I mean, you look like you're enjoying it.
Yeah, no, it's been really, really good. I feel like we literally stepped off the plane and like 7.5, 8 weeks have gone so quickly. But we're settled and really looking forward to the season.
I love the pictures of you, the family on the beach. That's what's making us insanely jealous, isn't it, Tamsin? But before I let Tamsin jump in, how do you feel when you think about your career and these pre-season moments going into this season? How do you physically feel? How do you mentally feel?
I'm feeling really good, actually. I think for me personally, everyone knows, I think I had Savannah in August 2020, and I think even from last year with my journey back to the court with Bath, and I guess this next step up going to FSN, I think it's been a journey probably I didn't expect. But in terms of my ambitions, hopefully to put my best foot forward for the Commonwealth Games squad coming up this summer, is an opportunity I just really wanted to take up, and I'm just so excited about it. I think we've been in pre-season for a long while in one sense, not only with the January quad series, but even finally getting to Queensland and joining the squad and all the different pre-season games that we've had. So the fact that the season is finally starting, that's exactly what every athlete wants, isn't it? Just to actually play the games, get in the competition, and to kind of see where you're at. So yeah, can't wait for Sunday.
in terms of Commonwealth Games selection, I'm going to go there because I'm going to go there early, Eboni. Like, not just about you, but one of the beauties of the English players being based in Australia is the matchups and the players they get to play against. Now, it's fair to say Gretel Boita had a impressive quad series against the Roses for the Diamonds. You're now getting to train against her, play with her. How helpful is it to have the matchups of not only someone like her, but some of the other players you're going to face this season?
Yeah, she had a storming quad series, especially in January. And in one sense, it's just so wonderful to see how well she's returned to the court after having her son Bobby. But yeah, I think that was one of the main attractions for me actually coming to Queensland Firebirds, having a first-hand dibs in terms of seeing some of the opposition that I might face during summer, given the opportunity. But it's been do you know what? It's been a learning curve, even at my age and stage of my career, to be in a training environment with Gretel, with the likes of Kim Rebellion, Gabby Simpson, who are on the cusp of potentially being in that Diamond squad and just being really challenged each and every single training session. There's lots of banter, as you can imagine, in the training sessions about Roses and Diamonds, but it kind of adds to the quality and the really challenging and high performance environment that they have. So I think every single training session, we're trying to get one eye over each other on the attack and the defence, and we've always got a smile at the end of it. But we always know that there's an underlying tone.
Yeah,
that goes with it.
A few elbows,
yeah, exactly.
a few note taking on the side.
Yeah. To give away some things, but not too much, right? But yeah, it's been exciting, and she's just a lovely person off the court as well. And I think in general, the whole team have made me feel really, really welcome. So really looking forward to a real positive season on and off the court.
I wanted to just touch base as well on where you are in your career now, because you've obviously played out in Australia before, you've then come back into the English setup, you've gone back out there again. And I think different stages in career can bring different parts of your game. I want to touch on Megan Anderson as well, because I really rate her as a coach. I was very excited when she got that head coach job. What elements has she already brought to your game, and what are you learning from that sort of Aussie style this season?
To me, she used to literally come in, and I think initially when we had the initial conversation about me potentially joining the Firebirds, she obviously wanted to look at me at goalkeeper and goal defence and really add my leadership qualities to that back defensive end, which she didn't necessarily have last season. So in terms of coming into the squad, it's very much been about what's the Firebirds philosophy, what are the Firebirds structures, but also just addressing what my strengths are and how I can add that to some of the younger defenders like Kim Jenner, who is on the cusp of the Diamonds, but also some really exciting talent with Ruby Bakewell-Dornan. So, but in saying that, it's also to add some leadership support to Kim and Gabby as she stepped down and Kim has stepped up. And she's just been really, really positive. I think right from the outset, I let her know what my goals were. And in terms of trying to marry that against with what the team needs and my own needs, she's been absolutely excellent. And I think I can't speak highly enough. I think as a parent herself, also understanding what it's meant for me to come all the way across the other side of the world and have to settle Savannah, settle my mum, and kind of give me that space in order to do that. And I actually think that by having that off-court pastoral care, in one sense, it's really led to my on-court, I guess, cohesion with the team and integration with the team. So, yeah, she's really exciting. She has lots of fresh ideas and making me look, even at my age and stage of the game, at the game in a different way. The structure of training is completely different to what we do at home. But I'm just enjoying just her positivity, her creativity in terms of the sessions, and looking forward to actually seeing how well we can do this season.
I love that Firebuds. I love the photos, the images you put up of all the Firebirds with the children. Some real photographic parents and children there too. Tamsin, you've been involved in this.
You know how many shots it took to get that one shot.
Yeah, I can well believe. I can well believe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, Tamsin, you are a dab hand with a camera, so I could ask you for advice on that. But it was more Tamsin. I know you've been big friends with Romelda Aiken-George, and she stepped away from the court, decided not to play this season. Danelle Wallam's been in and around before Eboni tells us the secrets inside the camp. For you, Tamsin, do you see her as that direct replacement? She's going to offer something really impressive in that attacking end for Firebirds.
Absolute no-brainer. I think she set the court alight last season in the Super League. I think it was one of those signings that we all went, Danelle who? You know, we've had Aussies over in the past. We've had players from all over the world come in, and some are good and some are special. Wellham was special. You know, some of the balls she took, her fearlessness on the shot, how she stood up in that attack end for the Rhinos side was incredible. And I think sort of put fear in all the defenders. And I think it was quite funny as all sort of looking at it over here going, why isn't this player signed? So I'm pretty sure she's going to sort of set it alight over there. It might take her some time to settle, but having been in that environment already and playing against it, and Ebs, I'm sure you've matched up to the best shooters in the world from all different nations. Where does Danelle rank in that right now?
She's such an emerging talent, and I think even in our training sessions at this moment in time, as she joins, initially as a training partner, with the prospect of her joining as an actual contracted player, she's just growing from strength and confidence with the unit and around her. And I think in terms of she's a short-range shooter, but also a long-range shooter, which we saw in the Team Girls Cup. And I think everyone actually, their eyes opened, especially at the Team Girls Cup, when she stepped onto the court, because, again, she just was brimming with confidence. She held her own. She was accurate. And they definitely gave everyone something to watch and something to think about. So I'm excited for her career as she continues to grow.
Eboni, we wish you every success this season. Hopefully we'll check in with you throughout the season too. I know Jess will be on the phone. So what do they do? How do they do it? Have you put an elbow?
Yeah.
All of the above as well. Eboni, enjoy every moment with your family. Looks like you are too, and rightly so, richly deserved. Well, while Eboni is in action in Australia, here's what's coming up in the Vitality Netball Superleague this weekend. Ooh, look at you, round 10. Bath Mavericks, Sirens, Stars, Rhinos, Pulse, Lightning, Thunder, Dragons, Storm. Do I need ask you, Tamsin Greenway, which is the game that's going to go, ha ha ha, laugh in your face, everyone watch me. I don't know what that is.
Hello Monday night, come join us on the couch. Loughborough, Lightning, Manchester Thunder, both unbeaten, is going to be a cracker. I actually think Thunder are going to get over the line, but we'll leave that to talk about next week. However, for all you netball geeks out there, it's the round we've been waiting for. We get to see all top 4 teams perform this weekend. So on streaming, you'll have Bath and Mavericks, you've got Rhinos versus Pulse, and then of course you've got the Monday night game, Loughborough Lightning, Manchester Thunder. So we can see where these teams are at.
Wonderful. It is going to be a lovely weekend of netball. It always is, right? A few of your social clips. I loved Sirens going strong and renaming 18th of March Gia Day after Gia Abernethy's 50th cap, her birthday, and she got player of the match. She is just one of those players that you look at, Tamsin, and she's pure leadership, isn't she, on court?
Yeah, she is, and it was something that the Siren squad were missing a few seasons ago. She came in, she's changed everything, just the culture up there as well. From the Scottish perspective, I'm so happy that she's involved in that group because it's given them something else to think about. And yeah, she's just a brilliant person on and off the court.
Well done to Storm and Wasps for painting the Surrey Sports Park Arena pink with their great reaction to the Tom Resi Trophy. Mickey Austin, one of many tweets with Poppy, Tom's daughter, the ball carrier, everyone supporting Stand Up to Cancer charity. Well done, everyone. Well played, everyone, in raising money for that. And final word to Zara, who gets in touch most weeks using the hashtag off the court with where she's watching and what she's drinking, both of which we approve of this week with the water. Clearly. Hashtag off the court, you can be part of it too. And like Zara, you can join us. Drink is optional, sometimes preferred. As always, though, it has been a pleasure. Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you to our guests too. A reminder to check out our previous shows, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.